anyway, you start with a medium-sized pot, and I have a generous tablespoon of butter in here. I'm going to put this heat out to medium-high-ish. And I also have some homemade goose stock defrosting in the microwave and warming through right now. It speeds up the process if you start with warm broth. And you can use any broth, it doesn't have to be goose broth, I just happen to have some. So if you happen to have some goose broth in your freezer, then go ahead and use it. I have here 1 small onion, 1 large king oyster mushroom, and about 5 or 6 cloves of garlic that I've diced into small pieces and pulverized. We don't want these to brown at all, we just want them to sweat, so I'm putting them in towards the beginning of the process. Help the sweating with a little salt. The flavors in this risotto are rather mild. I'm not really adding many other spices other than salt, so I'm making sure that it's a very high quality sea salt. Lid them to help them sweat. After your vegetables look like this, you can take off the lid and let them release more of their moisture. And at this point, I like to add the cup of raw rice. This is short grain rice. You don't have to get arborio rice, but it's probably better. I don't know. I think it's just more expensive. Just get short grain rice. Make sure every kernel gets coated with butter. And this is the part where you still have to watch it and stir it. You don't want the rice kernels to burn. You don't want the vegetables to get brown or burnt. I also like to add a little white pepper. Vegetables are nice and reduced, and the rice has started to... It doesn't brown exactly, it just gets kind of chalky. Now this is where my recipe deviates from the traditional. Usually at this point you'd slowly ladle in the broth. I am actually just going to take all 4 cups of this goose broth and just dump it in. Wait a minute, dirt moment, I forgot the white wine. Let's just put that in right now too. Turn up the heat. Let the wine boil just a little bit. Just add the rest of your broth. Give it some good stirs. You can add more salt at this point, but there's salt in the broth, there's salt in the butter, and there's going to be salt in the cheese that we're going to put in later, and the more butter that we're going to put in later. So I usually don't salt it until the very, very end when I'm serving it. Because believe me, I have over-salted risotto before, and it's a really sad thing. So this is pretty much it. You can just let it sit uncovered and have it at a light simmer, and it'll be done-ish. We'll come back in about 20 minutes. Today on the Sarah Cook Stuff, we're going to make a beautiful risotto. You need to stir it constantly and love it constantly. And you keep ladling in the broth little by little.
Class, rah, 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 beef, Roma, Roma, tomatoes, gaga, oh, lasagna. In my cooking class, I want some yummy food loaded with cheese. Just
drown
over
it,
Trent,
never
that's
drown
I don't
it.
want
It
not
can take about an
to
hour,
cheese.
but
I want some
love
lunch.
stirring that risotto. Yeah, no, risotto does not need to be that labor intensive. I'll show you how to make an easy risotto that you don't have to hover over constantly while cooking.
Rah, 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 beef, Roma, Roma, tomatoes, gaga, oh, lasagna. In my cooking class.
The first time I made risotto was after I'd seen it on a cooking show made by some Italian lady, and she was like that. She'd meticulously pour more broth on it every 30 seconds and stir it, and the whole process took a long time. And I made it that way the first several times I made it, and then one day I was just like, I'm too lazy, I'm just going to dump all the broth in at once and see if anything bad happens. And it really didn't. And then years and years and years later, I was watching the Food Network and saw that the Barefoot Contessa did something very similar. So, A, I'm not stealing from her, and B, I've been validated.